Good morning, afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. Today we've got William Duncan, or goes by Duncan, with us today from IPMA USA. Glad to have him. I want to remind everyone that we're doing this every other month. We're having folks come in from different professional societies in the project portfolio PMO area and talking about membership and certification. So please join us and look out for emails from PMO Leader. We're appreciated that Joe is doing this work, and we're recording this so you can get this on demand too. So with that, I want to welcome Duncan. And Duncan, maybe to kick us off, you can tell a little more about yourself, maybe your history and how you got affiliated with the IPMA. And I know it was ASAPMA at one time, and maybe we can start there for our conversation. So thank you for being here.
Sure. I got a set of slides that includes a little bit of
perfect
background on me, as well as the information that you asked for on IPMA.
I love it. Thank you.
All right. So my company that I run is Project Management Partners, based here in Lowell, in Massachusetts. As you see there on the list, I was the primary author of the original PMBOK guide way back in 1996. I'm currently the Director of Certification for IPMA USA as a volunteer, and my business involves working with clients to improve both individual and organizational competence in project management. If you want more information, the link that I've provided at the bottom here is a complete CV that you can download at your leisure.
Great.
All right, let's start with a quick overview of IPMA. How far do you want me to go?
I think right from the start would be great. I like to hear this.
Oh, I mean, you will hear it at 10 o'clock, but.
Well, no, we're recording it right now. We're going right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. It's a test session, so I thought we were just trying things out. You want to go back?
No, that's okay. We're perfect starting. We're just keep going. We're right on track.
All right. IPMA is the oldest International Project Management Association. It was founded in 1964. Its original name was Internet, as in International Network, but of course, as the Internet that we all know and love today became more widespread, more popular, and well-known, they decided to change the name to IPMA. This is a chart that I extracted from one of IPMA's brochures. The little red dots there are the capitals of countries where we have member associations. IPMA is a little bit different from most other professional associations in that it is a federation rather than, not sure what you'd call it, a conglomerate or a single organization. Each of those red dots represents an independent organization that can in fact leave IPMA anytime it wants to if it doesn't see IPMA providing value to the organization or its members. We currently have, I believe, just over 70 members. The last couple of years, we've been adding 2 or 3 a year. So I expect that IPMA will continue to grow worldwide.
Sorry, Duncan, when you say 70
Sure.
members, that's 70 members USA, or that's, can you?
That's 70 member associations.
70 member associations. How many people total would you say of all those associations? Do you have a total number?
I don't. I would estimate it's somewhere around 250,000, but I could be off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I believe the biggest organizations are APM in the UK and GPM in Germany. I believe each of those associations have somewhere around 30 or 40,000 members. We've got considerably fewer in the US, probably around 400 or 500. And the size of each of the organizations varies considerably.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. All right. One of IPMA's main products is standards. I've listed or shown the 4 major ones here. Each of these standards is available for free download. If you want a paper copy, you'll have to pay for it. But if you're happy with the electronic version, you can get that from the IPMA store and just click to download the free version. Starting from the left, PEB is the Project Excellence Baseline. That's basically a standard to allow you to evaluate a an individual project's performance. That's the document that we use in our annual awards program to recognize project of the year and so on. I have not done too much with the PEB personally, but I know a number of people whose opinions and experience I respect, who consider it to be just a great, great document. ICB stands for Individual Competence Baseline. That's the document that we use in our certification program. I'll reference that a little bit later in the presentation. The ICB has 28 competence elements with, I forget the exact number, somewhere around 70 or 80, maybe a couple more key competence indicators. So as opposed to saying this is how you do a project, it's saying this is how you evaluate a project manager's competence. The assumption, if you will, is that if you can demonstrate those competences, if you can provide evidence for each of those competences, that implies that you should be able to manage a project successfully. But again, I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk specifically about certification. ALB, I call the Agile Leadership Baseline. The title that they have on the document is a little bit different, but that's basically what it is. It's saying, here's how the competence elements in ICB are modified, adjusted if you are working primarily in an agile environment.
Duncan, is that agile reference, is that fairly new within the last couple of years? I haven't heard of that one, or is that?
Yeah, probably within the last 2 years or so.
Okay.
Maybe 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
OCB stands for Organizational Competence Baseline. Again, you're seeing a trend here of competence baselines. It defines what you would expect for an organization to be successful in managing its portfolio of projects. OCB is used in one of IPMA's other products called IPMA Delta, which is an assessment of organizations. Basically saying, if you're not managing your project successfully, why not? What are the elements that you need to improve on? IPMA also has a number of SIGs. Probably the second one listed here would be the one that most people in Medtronics would be interested in, and that's healthcare. If people are interested in starting something specifically for medical devices, the gentleman who manages the SIGs for IPMA is here in the US. I can certainly put you in touch if you're interested. You'll also see down the bottom of Smarter Cities, Smarter Rural, and Smarter Universities, a burgeoning interest and emphasis on both sustainability in general and sustainability specifically as it relates to projects and supporting better management of municipalities.
Duncan, with these SIGs, are those part of the membership when you sign up? You can
Yes.
get as many of those you want, or do you pay per SIG, or how does that work?
Oh, you can participate in as many SIGs as you want.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. IPMA also runs World Congresses. In the old days, it used to be every 2 years. Now it's annually. This is just the cover shot from the most recent one in St. Petersburg. A very interesting experience. They did a hybrid Congress. So it was a combination of people physically present as well as online. And the sessions involved both as well. Some sessions were presented physically in St. Petersburg and taped or also Zoomed at the same time so that people could connect. I actually sat in on the award ceremony, which I think was the Tuesday night of the conference. And they had people at the awards banquet, again, physically present in St. Petersburg, and people like me in the US viewing from afar. This, I think, was basically a response to COVID and concerns that maybe nobody would want to travel. But what the St. Petersburg organizers found is that people in Russia were happy to travel to St. Petersburg. And there were actually quite a few people around Europe who preferred physical presence. So they just did an awesome job of getting that set up. Next year's conference is in Chiba, Japan, just outside of Tokyo. The year after that, it's in Copenhagen, Denmark. And the year after that, we expect it to be here in the US in Las Vegas. We're not sure that anybody's really going to be interested in going to Las Vegas, but we figured, hey, why not give it a shot? I think one of IPMA's unique features and one of its strongest product lines, if you will, is Young Crew. Young Crew is basically open to project managers who are 35 or younger. What I have put on the slide here is the link to their next, what they call Global PM Days, which is an annual workshop, pretty much, I think, always online, specifically targeted at young project managers, but not limited to young project managers. Anybody can join. I observed one 2 years ago, I think, and spoke at one 3 years ago. It's a great group of people because being younger than some of us old dudes, they're really enthusiastic about everything they're doing and everything they're learning. Young Crew also sponsors something called Gecko. I'm guessing that Gecko, as in the Gecko mascot, may have a different name in non-English languages. I probably would have chosen something different. Become.pm is the website. If you got any younger project managers who are interested, I will also have a little bit later in the presentation a link for our Young Crew director here at IPMA-USA. You can get in touch with Brooke to be added to the names that IPMA will provide. I do apologize for the fact that the image there is maybe not the easiest to read in terms of the size of some of the text, and that's why I included the link in the title up above. IPMA also has an extensive awards program. If you see going across here left to right, the Project Excellence Award, like I said, is based on the Project Excellence baseline. And I forget the exact categories, but there are 3 or 4 categories for Project of the Year in terms of large project, medium project, small project. And there might even be 1 or 2, I'd have to look it up, domain-specific projects. The Global Individual Awards are for Project Manager of the Year and Young Project Manager of the Year. Each of those have a gold, silver, and bronze medalist. And if you look at the last couple of years, the winners have actually been spread around the globe quite well. And the last one on the right is the Global Research Award, which is targeted at researchers. IPMA does also have an annual research conference that's pretty well attended and pretty well received. Whoops. Switching gears to IPMA-USA. We've been around for a while, founded way back in 2001, officially on July 4th for obvious reasons. As Michael noted earlier, we were originally founded as ASAPM, the American Society for the Advancement of Project Management. And what we found was that there were a great many individuals who were confused, weren't accustomed to the idea of a federation of independent organizations. So several years ago, I think probably about 10 now, we changed our name to IPMA-USA to make the branding more clear. I included our vision statement here. It's one which was originally developed by APM in the United Kingdom, in the UK. Our board fell in love with it and adopted it, asked their permission, of course, but adopted it with no hesitation. So what we're looking for in the future, what we're hoping to support and develop, is a world in which all projects succeed, not just 1 or 2, not just a couple, but all projects. The mission statement is probably a little bit longer than I'd like to see. So I emphasize the one word that I think is important and that really differentiates both IPMA and IPMA-USA from many other professional associations. And that's, for the most part, we provide all of the products and services that we offer, either at cost or for free, depending upon the business model. Oops, what happened there? For some reason, I'm going ahead 2 slides. We'll have to try and fix that. Okay, just basic information on joining IPMA. Regular membership is $88 annually. If you're a full-time student, it's $22 annually. We've actually baked that 1/4 amount into our bylaws so that full-time student memberships are always 1/4 of the regular. Both memberships include membership in IPMA, which means access to IPMA products and services and member rates at congresses and so on. And both also include discounts for the International Journal of Project Management. I believe the discounted price is $96 annually versus 160 or 180 something. I believe the International Journal of Project Management, IJPM, is the best in terms of the quality of the articles, the coverage of the articles, quality of the editing, and so on. If you're here in the US, you may find it a little disconcerting since UK English is the official language of IPMA. So organization has an S and recognize has an S and some of those things, which I find a little bit annoying, but hey, small thing to live with. We do also offer corporate memberships, but the pricing there is based upon the services selected. So if you have an organization that's primarily interested in attending conferences or sponsoring webinars or versus one that's primarily interested in certification, basically the pricing is based upon how many people you want to get involved and what services you've asked for.
So Duncan, can you go back to that last slide, please?
Sure.
So just for clarification, because it gets me a little confused, but I think I understand it. I see in the Project Management International Journal, you have the IPMA logo and you have the APM logo. That's at least what I can see. Tell me again how all that works. You said it's a federation, so APM is a part of IPMA, or?
Yes, APM is the IPMA member association in the UK.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And for the USA, you are the IPMA-USA is the association in the United States.
We are the member association.
IPMA overall.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So we send delegates to biannual meetings that are in charge of managing the federation. Each individual member association is free to manage its own affairs as long as it complies with certain things that IPMA demands. One of those is the design and structure of the certification program. Again, I'll cover that in just a couple of minutes, but there are some other things like we do have a code of ethics. Member association is expected to conform to the IPMA code of ethics in all its dealings.
And you said there are 70 member outlets within the world, right? The globe.
Yep, member associations, which are normally national associations. There are some regional groupings. LatNet, for example, is a group of Latin American, South and Central American, primarily Spanish speaking. I'm not sure whether Brazil is part of LatNet or not, but they share some products and services. For example, they coordinated the translation of the ICB into Spanish. Okay. There are some language differences throughout Central and South America. Translations of specialized terms such as work breakdown structure are not always the same in each country, but they coordinated the basic translation and then each country took responsibility for tailoring it to its needs.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure. All right, certification. I basically got 2 slides here presenting the overview. What you can see here to start with on the left is that there are 4 levels of certification, creatively labeled A, B, C, and D. In projects, you see we go from certified project director down to certified project management associate. I'll give you a little bit more detail on the process in each of these as we go. In the program and portfolio domains, we only offer A and B. The reason for that is we really felt that I should take a step back. The main differentiator between the advanced levels A, B, and C is the complexity of the projects that you're managing. So for example, we have a management complexity model, and for level C, for all levels, there are 10 factors. For level C, each of the projects that you want to use for your demonstrated experience must score at least 16 points on the scale. For project B, or for level B, at least 25 points on the scale. For level A, at least 32 points on the scale. So that's the primary differentiator among the levels. When we looked over at program and portfolio, we really felt that programs and portfolios that were at the lower levels of complexity really weren't something that we felt we could comfortably certify. So we've left those two domains at just program and portfolio. We also, I don't know why my system, I think I just need to slow down a little bit when I click.
Sure.
We also have 3 other areas of certification. First column is the agile leadership that you saw a little bit of a minute ago with that document. Then we also offer certifications for trainers as well as consultants and coaches. Part of the reason for adding the consultants and coaches is we found there were a great many project managers who had previously been certified at levels A and B, who were no longer actively managing projects, but were instead involved in coaching other project managers or consulting with organizations. And since renewal of your certification requires that you continue to have experience in the field, you need to basically spend 50% of your time managing projects at the level A complexity in order to get recertified as project director. So these people were not able to get recertified, and that's a large part of the reason why we developed that one on the right. The one in the middle.
Sorry, Duncan, a quick question.
Sure.
I think a good one to ask is, so you've got project, program, portfolio, agile. Is there any focus or any future focus or guidance on PMOs, or is it mainly around just these areas?
There have been discussions, but there is not anything at present. As I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of there are a lot of variations in PMO design, PMO effectiveness, and so on. So yeah, the focus is really basically on the individual who is doing the management. Okay. We do have the OCB, which is the organizational competence baseline. And I suspect if we were to do anything to evaluate a PMO, we would probably start with OCB and adjust it or tailor it for PMOs.
And then one other question with certification, the previous slide, are you going to explain a little more detail how your approach is? Because it's unique compared to,
say, I'll go through the process for each.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, sure. Which just happens to be the next slide. All right. This process flow is for the upper levels, A, B, and C. A, B, and C all require demonstrated experience. That experience is 100% verified. So the candidate has to complete an application package, which you can see here. There's an application form, there's an experience summary, which basically says, tell us about the projects that you've managed that you're going to use as evidence for your experience. There's a management complexity form to fill out to evaluate the management complexity of those forms. There's a self-assessment that's really just a way primarily to say, before you get too far into this process, you really ought to take a look at ICB and make sure you understand what's there. So the self-assessment asks you to evaluate yourself against the competence elements in the ICB, which kind of means you can't just look at the titles. You need to do a little bit of looking at ICB. Yeah. We also offer a document that I don't have in this chart. I call it a pre-screen. A lot of people may have a title of senior project manager, but they're not managing projects that come close to the level of B. We had one prospective candidate, for example, who was managing projects for a university. And in looking at the details of their projects, most of them were things related to the internet. There was a little bit of technical complexity, but they were typically 2 or 3 people for 2 or 3 months. And while there may have been some technical complexity to the project, there wasn't the management complexity that we expect for level A. And this person got very upset with us because we wouldn't qualify them for level A. And in fact, in our model, they were borderline for level C.
Yeah, Duncan, and I think we've talked about this in the past. I've been looking at level A. We've had conversations, and by the way, I still go forward with that one of these days. But it is a good thing to be able to kind of put you in a place where you agree and the person agrees, and you can move forward, because there's a time commitment here. This isn't just an hour. This takes some time and some thought and pulling up information. So it is a good thing to have that. So I appreciate that you have that type of a form.
And the experience verification is the form that we use to make sure that the experience that you're submitting does in fact satisfy the requirements for the level that you're applying for. The next step after your application package is to, if you're applying for A or B, you have to write a report describing your competence, basically. We do allow some flexibility in terms of how the report is structured, but the report will be read by the assessors, will be reviewed to say, is there in fact evidence that this person, for example, understood the strategy of their organization, that they did an appropriate job of preparing their schedules, of preparing their plans, and so on. For level B, there's an oral exam. And for level C, there's a written exam. The level C written exam, however, is still oriented towards expertise. It is all short answer questions, and it is things like explain to us how you developed the schedule on a recent project or on a qualifying project. So if you want to describe an agile approach, if you want to describe a traditional approach, if you want to describe a mechanical approach, basically we don't care. What we're looking for is evidence that you in fact developed the schedule, that you understood what you were doing. And we're also looking for indications that you would be likely to be able to do it again in the future. One of my favorite stories is a person who applied for level B, and the project that they were using as an example was a complete and utter disaster in terms of how they had handled their stakeholders. It was a construction-related project. They did absolutely nothing appropriate to deal with the abutters, with the municipalities, and so on that were affected by the project. And when we said, how can you expect us to certify you? Their example was, I've learned my lesson. And our response was, no, sorry, after you've demonstrated that you've learned your lesson, please come back and reapply.
So Duncan, quick question on A. Did that change? I see it's just a report. Was A an oral exam previously, or is that always the case? It's a report.
A has always been a report. For a couple of reasons. Kind of our assumption is if you're applying for level A, if you've demonstrated your experience through the report and through the sample projects that you've been managing as part of your application, we really kind of felt that an oral exam might be a little bit offensive to people at that level.
Okay. I don't know, for some reason I thought that was part of it, but I'm glad to see it's not.
No, I mean, there's still some differences of opinion within IPMA as to whether or not an oral exam is appropriate for B. We don't really mind it here in the US because it does give us additional information, and it's not a multiple choice style question. It's similar to the kinds of questions that I that illustrated with C. They're all, tell us about how you did this on a project.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Now, the next step is assessor review. Each candidate has 2 assessors. The assessors independently review all the information that's been provided, and then rats. My finger is a little bit too quick. If it doesn't pop right up right away, I hit it a second time. I'll try and control that. Then there's an interview. The interview varies, hour and a half for level C, 2 hours for A and B typically. And the objectives of the interview you can see down there. It's to verify the written evidence and to obtain additional evidence if there are competence elements where the candidate has not provided enough evidence for us to pass them.
Is that sorry, Duncan, is that assessment interview done by the two assessors?
By the two assessors that reviewed your package.
Okay, thank you.
Here in the US, we are quite adamant about having the assessors not compare notes. If the assessor's results disagree, if one assessor says you pass and the other one says you fail, we then get a third assessor involved who examines the written evidence and expresses a judgment based upon the written evidence and casts the tie-breaking vote. Is there anything else I was going to mention here? No, I think that covers it. All right, level D is much easier, much simpler. Level D does not require any experience. It is definitely an entry-level exam, although it's a little bit more challenging than some other entry-level exams in that we do have short essay questions. We have 60 questions in 50 minutes for multiple choice, 10 short essay questions in 2 hours for the short essays. And the short essays are more knowledge-oriented rather than experience-oriented because you may not have had the experience when you're taking the exam. With the multiple choice questions, we are very disciplined about avoiding what I call trick questions. A trick question being one that is designed to mislead someone who knows the answer. For example, I have looked at some sample exams from other organizations, and I kind of figure at my age and with my experience, I shouldn't miss any questions on an entry-level exam. And if I do miss one, I go back and say, why? Is this truly something that I don't know? Or was it something, where I misinterpreted the question? And it often hinges on something like a double negative or asking a question that could be true in some cases that isn't true in other cases. And I just think that's inappropriate for level D. All right, I got a question from Joe there, which I'll try and answer in a bit. Okay, IPMA offers electronic badges. You can post on LinkedIn, apply to your resume or whatever. At the moment, they're free. They'll be free at least through the middle of next year. Whether they will continue to be free or not, I don't know, depends. Pricing, a little bit higher than what you may be used to for some other programs. And you can see that if you look at A, B, and C, where we have to pay 2 assessors to do the evaluations. We have a significant amount of out-of-pocket, and the pricing here basically reflects that. I haven't listed corporate membership prices because I said the price per individual varies based upon what you're looking for and how many individuals you want to have listed as members. Let me respond to a question that Joe just included in the chat. APM has, I'm not sure I would say a more disciplined or more rigorous program. They're registered, I'm not sure what they're calling it. It's Reg PM in Australia. APM is chartered. That's right. Chartered project manager. It is really an analog for level A. And based upon what I know of the chartered project manager program in the UK, it really isn't that any more disciplined or any more rigorous than level A. APM does have a bit of an advantage in that they have a well-established reputation within the UK. They've been offering certifications there for many years. They have a membership that I think is currently around 30 or 40,000 members. So they're certainly the dominant organization in the US. And the Chartered Project Manager program has been approved by the government, by the Crown. So the Chartered Project Manager that's offered there is equivalent to, say, certified public accountant in the US, or a lawyer, maybe not quite a physician yet, but at that level. Joe also asked about differences between members. I'm not sure there's a huge difference in who's a member. I think there's a substantial difference in the mix of domains. Based upon my experience with PMI, was Joe's specific question. PMI is totally dominated by the IT community. IPMA is far more diverse, many more people in construction, good number of people in pharma, trying to think what other disciplines, construction, architecture, fair number in IT, fair number in commercial software development, new product development, electronics, manufacturing, so on. Right. Okay, if you're looking for general information, here are the URLs for the websites, IPMA and IPMA-USA. I've also uploaded to my pCloud account the brochures that IPMA makes available. These are all PDF files. There's about 6 or 7 of them describing different product offerings in a little more detail than we have available to cover today. And once again, I hit it too quick. I apologize for that. And if you've got specific questions, Steve Lynn is our Vice President of Membership here in the US. I mentioned Young Crew before. Brooke Davidson is currently a grad student at Texas A&M. She's running the Young Crew outfit. She would be the person to contact if you're interested in participating in Young Crew in general, or Gecko specifically. And anything that you want to know about certification, I'm the dude. All right. So what else would you like to know?
Great. No, Duncan, this has been very informative. I learned some things I didn't know before. I am an IPMA member, an APM, PMI, et cetera. And I do find value with the IPM membership. And I have looked at this, been through some of the certification process back in the AS APM days. And like I said, trying to find time to get back into the level A certification. We've exchanged emails off and on, I know. One of the things I have a question on is, if people want to kick the tires, and go to the IPMA website, are there free things that they can look at and download and just kind of get a better idea? Or do you need the membership to get into everything on the website?
I believe there are a couple things in the members only area of the IPMA-USA website. But to be honest with you, I'd have to look to see what's there. In general, we're providing things for free. I've listed all the brochures there, which you would expect to be free since they're marketing documents. But the standards that I mentioned are also available as free downloads. So you do not have to be a member to get a copy of the ICB or the PEB and so on.
Great, that's awesome. And then another question I have is, do they have a set of career development tools? Or does IPMA have any kind of a tab or anything on career that people want to, figure out where I need to go, project, program, whatever? Is there anything like that that they offer?
I haven't seen anything about that. I think there's kind of an implicit assumption that people who are involved in project management are going to be looking to climb the ladder in terms of levels, that they're going to be looking to manage more complex projects. I did have some discussions with a group I was involved in a couple of years ago where people had tried to lay out some career paths showing you can go here, you can go there, you can go to a PMO, you can go to a program director's role. But we ended up not pursuing that because we couldn't find any agreement among the group about this is how it actually happens.
Sure.
I think, for example, there are so many variations. You asked about PMOs previously. If I just look at PMOs, there are at least 3 or 4 major PMO models. Some people within the discipline have started calling or using PMO for project management officer, which is typically basically a clerk that collects information on the project and what somebody that we might have called a project controls officer in the past, or a project controls analyst. Those are similar names. So at this point, my personal opinion, at least, is still there's so much variety in titles and difficulty and how different organizations are structured that a career path would not be particularly helpful.
I'm just curious for 2 reasons. I know PMI has the navigator tool that was in beta. I think it's out now, and it's interesting, but it's not perfect. And then the other thing is, where I work at 100,000 people, the question I get time and time again is, where can I get career information? How can I go from A to B to C to D? And I know it's not easy, but we're trying to map that out and put some things within
I did work with a client a couple of years to develop a career path for their organization. And a couple of the issues that we ran up against, and I think eventually we ended up dealing with, smaller organization than yours, probably about 25,000 consulting engineering firm. But what we found we needed to do in order to address a career path was look not just at the project management discipline, but at management and technical disciplines as well, because there were people coming up from the bottom who might express an interest in project management. And then you get into project management and they say, I really don't like customers. Can I go back to designing at my desk?
Yeah.
And so the career path and the career ladders that we ended up with addressed all of those needs. And the other thing that these guys did that I thought was brilliant, you may like this, the people on the webinar may not appreciate it, but basically they said, we're not going to promote you unless we have a need. All right. So you're not going to go from junior project manager, which was their title for what would be roughly level C in the IPMA model. You're not going to go from junior project manager to senior project manager just because you've been managing projects for the last 6 years. If we are fully staffed, that our business is such that we don't need any more senior project managers, sorry, you can continue to work with us until there's an opening, or you can go somewhere else. But we're not going to pay all of our project managers at senior rates if we're not getting reimbursed for you from the client, because of course all of their revenue is client billable, if we're not getting money from the client to cover your salary. And the other thing they did that I thought was kind of clever, they had a career path basically for their marketing arm. And if you wanted to move into the marketing arm, you had to come through the first level of project manager first, because that's where you got experience dealing with clients and client issues and coming up with the solutions that were appropriate for both the company and the client.
And kind of in that same area, one of the trends I'm seeing is people at my company, being a technology company, they want more project managers that are project managers / engineer scientists. So they need people that they don't need them to go deep, but they need to understand the science, technology, or engineering, and kind of in that front end innovation in some spaces too. So it's kind of interesting how it's changing. Leadership, soft skills, project management, technical. It's kind of this, I guess I'm referred to as a quarterback in my area. So it's kind of this all-purpose running back or quarterback that they can throw something at you and you figure out how to get it done depending on the customer, the stakeholders, the cost, timeline. So I see that trend taking place more and more, where it's not just you're going to be a project manager and do schedule. You're doing a lot more things, right? Is that something you see too? Or?
Well, I'll give you my opinion on it. I think it's fairly widely held. It's, let's say, within the project management knowledgeable community. You got to picture a 2x2 matrix, right? So video is always backwards here.
Sure.
So is this the upper right or the upper left of your screen?
It's my right.
Okay, that's where I want it on the upper right. Okay, so in the upper right-hand corner, you have a project manager of both technical knowledge of the field as well as strong project management skills. I would not expect the person in the upper right-hand corner there to have the best technical skills, because if they've worked to develop and maintain their technical skills, it means they haven't worked to develop and maintain their project management skills.
Right.
So I want both up there.
Yep.
Down in the lower corner.
Yep.
Whoops, wait a minute, here, right?
Lower left. Yep, that'd be left. Yep,
And the lower left, we have somebody who doesn't have project management experience, doesn't have much in the way of technical experience either. We don't want that person managing the project. They are clearly a disaster waiting to happen.
Yep.
If I go here, sorry for the
Upper left. Yep.
Here I have somebody who has strong technical skills and weak management skills. Here I have somebody who has strong project management skills and weak technical skills.
Right.
What I want is for every project to be assigned to somebody up here, right?
Yep.
And I want to absolutely avoid any projects down here. So the question becomes, if I can't get the person who's up here, where do I go for the other two corners? And if I'm going to be making technical decisions, I'll take the person that has strong technical skills, weaker project management skills. If I'm going to be making management decisions, I want the person with stronger management skills and weaker technical skills. The absolute two best project managers that I know have basically zero technical skills. One of them is managing IT projects, and I will tell you the truth here. If you ask them to develop a spreadsheet that added up a column of numbers, they couldn't do it. They absolutely purely have zero technical skills. They have great management skills, great empathy, great relationship skills. They are more than willing to defer knowledges to defer decisions to their technical experts and to back up the technical experts' reputation. And they manage the most complex, most difficult decisions in their organization.
No, that makes sense. I appreciate that analogy.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the decision. People who are asking for technical experts, if it's true that your project manager is going to be making mostly technical decisions on the project, and the project is small enough that you can't afford to assign technical experts to the team, then you may be forced into that. But one of the other examples that I use, I forget the guy's name now, but the guy who managed the program for the development of the Boeing 777, I think eventually took over as president and CEO of Boeing. But if you think about the technical aspects of that project, there were supply chain issues, there were materials manufacturing, there were international permitting issues. They did a huge number of things that had never been done before in terms of manufacturing and aircraft design and so on. There's no way that guy was an expert in all of the technologies of the Boeing 777. Simply not possible.
Yeah.
Right. But management skills had him, up to his neck and out the top.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I appreciate that. I see Joe has a couple more questions there. What are your thoughts on establishing a certification as accepted like that here in the US?
It would be challenging. There are a couple of reasons for it. One, at present, IPMA-USA isn't large enough to really drive that process. APM was bolstered by the fact, like I say, they have somewhere around 30 or 40,000 members, been well established in the UK for many years. In general, APM produces excellent intellectual property. Things like their MSP, managing successful programs, and a couple of other things that have come out of APM are just excellent. So they had the political connections, the industry connections, the intellectual property expertise in order to drive that program through the process for Crown approval. The second issue is that the US does not have a similar organization who could sanction such a program. IPMA is international, PMI is international. There would be hell to pay, I think, if PMI tried to create a government sanctioned, certified project manager program without participation from other organizations and without appropriate representation across all the domains. Might happen. I know PMI has talked about it in the past, but I don't see it as something that's necessary. I think also right now the certification mentality in the US is take a course, pass a test. That mentality is one of the things that we're fighting against with IPMA-USA. I mean, even people who are interested in like senior project manager will say, well, what course should I take? And when I tell them you don't need to take a course, well, all you need to do is provide evidence so that you've actually done this on the job. Yeah. And it's kind of like, that doesn't, that's not what I was expecting. Sorry, that's the way the program's designed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the issues there in terms of certification. I think there are a huge number of organizations that ask for particular certifications without having a clue about what's involved in the certification or what they're actually getting. I won't name any names, but I'm sure you both know who and what I'm talking about. And probably everybody on the webinar does as well. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with the program as designed. It's with that program. It's just that there are a lot of people out there who don't understand what the program stands for or what that credential stands for. It's the people who have oversold or missold or misrepresented what it means that are the problem.
Yeah, I would agree. I see Joe has one more question here. What about comparison between IPMA certifications and Axelos,
Axelos,
MOP, P30, etc.?
I haven't looked too closely at the Axelos certifications. They took up ownership of Prince 2. So I'm assuming you're looking at things that are based on Prince 2. My understanding is that Axelos is focused on multiple choice questions on their certification exam. And basically, that's not our philosophy within IPMA. We want to see evidence of actual on-the-job, real-life performance. And just the example that I will use is I've always been really good at passing multiple choice tests. I took one for another certification a couple of years ago, did absolutely no preparation, knew only a very little bit about the subject. And I still managed to get something like 78% on the test just because I'm good at multiple choice questions.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I agree. I think the tests we're talking about, I think it's as much as test taking as it is as knowledge. If you're good at test taking, you have a leg up. So I agree. Duncan, while I know we're getting to the end of the hour here, just a minute or two left. Anything else you have? This has been great. This has been enlightening. I appreciate you having the slides and going through this in detail. I'm sure everyone's going to get some good information out of here. I appreciate the contacts. Any other closing thoughts?
I will send you a copy of the presentation so you have it to distribute or post wherever.
Great. I'd like to post it at work too, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
This is as much education for me as anything else, and I appreciate it. And I still will look you up. It's on my to-do list for the A level. I just, as everyone, busy, COVID, everything else. So I will be looking you up at some point. But again, appreciate it.
Should I hold my breath or not?
It's really on my to-do list. So, and I moved about 3 months ago, and I'm getting things settled out. So I'm going back and looking, and I looked at it not too long ago. So
I'm happy to have it there.
That'd be great. So again, Duncan, appreciate it, and everyone, please look for the next installment in 2 months. In January, we'll be talking to the Institute for Project Management. So these are great. And again, appreciate Duncan's time here and the enlightenment of IPMA and how it works, the certifications and membership. And hopefully you'll get a lot out of this, and you have the contact information there. So with that,
Yeah.
I'll wish everyone.
Just one,
Go ahead,
one
Duncan.
question, Michael. You said good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Do you have people around the globe listening in?
Well, yeah, I mean, the big idea here is that we're recording this so it's on demand. So
Okay.
I don't know where everyone's located. I can't see, but since this is global, I usually, at work and other places, I usually try to start that up because I have to be aware that there's people from Europe and Asia, and
Okay.
I have to get better at that.
I would just add, if there are people who are listening who are not in the USA, they should go to the IPMA website, which will have contact information for their local member association. If there isn't one in their country, they should contact IPMA about the possibility of forming one.
And that's great. And I see Lorenzo says Italy is here. So great to have Italy on board. So fantastic.
Yep, Italy has a very strong IPMA member association that offers all of the certifications in Italy.
Great. So with that, Duncan, hopefully our paths will cross soon. I've got it on my list. And again, thanks to Joe and PMO leader. And we'll look forward to our next installment in January. Take care, everyone. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US, and happy holidays. And we wish you the best. Thank you.